Now I would like to officially welcome you to Frankie in his own words. So many of you know that this is Frankie Manning birthday month. And so Frankie Manning's birthday, May 26th, right? So this is in celebration. Every May we do something. It used to be really, really big, but now we're doing what we can. So some of you may have been dancing with us when we brought Frankie here to the Hudson Valley in 2006. And I got to teach with him for the weekend. That was one of the highlights of my life. And some of you have heard his stories firsthand, and some of you have not. And some of you maybe aren't even familiar with who Frankie was. So that's why we wanted to do this. We wanted to bring you Frankie so you could hear his voice, so you could hear his stories, and most of all, so you could hear his laugh. So you get to hear his laugh, which is so incredible. Chester and I first met Frankie Manning in 2004. We had been dancing about 6 months, and we were at our first big event at Beantown Summer Dance Camp, where I found out that everything I was doing was wrong. So after a frustrating day of classes in which every teacher wanted me to do a swing out their way, I pulled Chester into a stifling hot studio and made him do the swing out with me over and over and over again. And many of you know what I'm talking about. Well, Frankie came into the studio and I did not even realize that. And he sat there and he was watching us and finally he shakes his head and he gets up and he comes over and he starts helping us. And so, you know, here's Frankie, he's the camp guest of honor and he's helping us. He didn't even know us. And I bring that story up because it's dear to my heart, and it also really illustrates who Frankie was, the type of person he was. He was kind, he was generous, he was a true ambassador to Lindy Hop. And some of you also know that I helped edit his book, The Ambassador of Lindy Hop. And it was my pleasure to return his kindness and his generosity in sharing his skills by sharing my skills. So that's how that came about. And it was during the work with the book that I actually met Judy. And she has become a great friend, a friend to the Hudson Valley. She's come here often and given some great talks. And so let me tell you a little bit about Judy. So Judy Pritchett has been passionate about swing dance since 1985, when she first encountered it at Small's Paradise in Harlem. So those of you who were on Ron and Susan's virtual tour of the dance hotspots of Harlem last month, you saw Small's Paradise, right? So you know where it is, you know what it looked like. And Judy danced there and met Frankie. She was his significant other for 21 years. In 1995, with input from Frankie, she posted the archives of early Lindy Hop on what was then the brand new internet.
Very brave.
And so this was a way to let people know about the beginning of Lindy Hop at the Savoy Ballroom. And a couple of years later, she opened the Savoy Style Swing Dance Shop, also on the internet, selling instructional videos and dance shoes. And this was my go-to place, because that was my era. I was on that thing all the time, ordering videos and dance shoes and everything. So she was a real lifesaver in that. So sadly, Frankie passed away in April of 2009, just a month short of his 95th birthday. And Judy has served on the board of the Frankie Manning Foundation since it began in 2010. Her primary role has been running the Ambassador Scholarship Program. We at Got2Lindy are very grateful to the Frankie Manning Foundation for keeping Frankie's legacy alive and providing programs and financial support for the community, the dance community. In 2012, one of our swing dance students, Lahua Hackett, then 17, received a full scholarship to attend Beantown Lindy Hop Dance Camp as an ambassador. And also, in March of 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, the foundation awarded financial gifts to dance organizations who are also dedicated to keeping Frankie's legacy alive, and Got2Lindy was a proud recipient when we needed it most. So we are very appreciative of that to help us through the pandemic. So without further ado, I give you Judy Pritchett.
Hi. Well, before we start, I would like to just mention something about my going on the internet, creating a website in 1995. There weren't even browsers yet when I first went on the internet. I mean, this was early. But if you looked up Lindy Hop, all you ever heard of was Dean Collins. Dean Collins, who was in 40 Hollywood films, okay? Nothing about Harlem, nothing about Whitey's Lindy Hoppers, and the real roots of Lindy Hop, which were within the Black community in Harlem. So I learned how to make a website, and created a website that gave the history, the early history of Lindy Hop. And recently, it's still around, but it's really very primitive technologically. So we recently moved it over to the Frankie Manning Foundation website. And what it does is it takes the old videos that we have of early Lindy Hop dancing and says which dancers are in it, and then does biographies of each of the dancers. And in this way, I hope that they become people, and people realize that the dance they love so much came from a group of really sweet young people in Harlem. Okay, let's get started. For those of you who know Frankie and may have seen this before, it's going to be a nice review. For people who are new to Frankie, this is a good summary of his life up to 1989. At the time that this video was made, Frankie was 75 years old. And it actually starts with the celebration of his 75th birthday. This appeared on national TV, 1989, on the 2020 show. And we're going to show it now.
Of all the awards show business gives to its own, Broadway's Tonys may not be the best known, but they may be the most cherished. But what if we told you that this year, one Tony winner was a retired postal worker? Add to it that in a former life, Frankie Manning might well have influenced how you dance or how your parents danced. Do you remember the Lindy Hop? I do, and you will when you see Bob Brown's report.
Frankie Manning danced with all comers at his 75th birthday party this year. To the people who know about Frankie, this was a chance to touch firsthand history, like getting a batting lesson from Babe Ruth, a piano lesson from Duke Ellington, or a flying lesson from Charles Lindbergh. This is a story about how Frankie Manning got his second win in a dancing career interrupted by a world war and 3 decades in the civil service. He had once influenced the way millions of people danced. For these people, his tradition is back in style.
25 years from now, I'll see you back here at the same place.
It all started in Harlem in the late 20s and early 30s, with a new dance that was named in honor of Charles Lindbergh's solo flight across the Atlantic, the Lindy Hop. It was often fast and acrobatic. Developed and perfected by the young black dancers at Harlem's Savoy Ballroom, where Frankie Manning was part of the scene.
The Savoy, yes, it was the center of the universe, because people would come from all over the world just to see the Lindy Hoppers. And when you came into the Savoy and you hear one of those bands swinging in there, I mean, you immediately got into the mood also. You was a swinger too, you know.
The dance grew to be so popular that in a less acrobatic version for social dancing, it spread throughout the world. It would even wind up on the cover of Life magazine, which called it this country's only native and original dance form. And one of the major contributors to the development of the Lindy Hop was Frankie Manning, who, with a group of other dancers, performed on tours that took them far from Harlem, ranging all the way to the Moulin Rouge in Paris, sharing the spotlight with jazz greats such as Duke Ellington. They called themselves Whitey's Lindy Hoppers, after the man who brought them together, Herbert White. One of the other members of that elite performance group, Norma Miller, remembers that Frankie was a star with special abilities.
Oh yeah, he was extraordinary. He was so far above most dancers that we could always use him as an example. If you wanted something done, you showed it to Frankie, or Frankie showed you how to do it.
One of the new steps Frankie showed everyone, that's him at center stage in this scene, was a means of locking arms with his partner and throwing her into the air without missing a beat. That's it. He also had extraordinary gifts as a group choreographer. He was called out to Hollywood to appear in and choreograph this scene in the film Hell's a Poppin'.
Hell's a Poppin' was really the best choreographed Lindy Hop that was ever produced on film. Frankie never missed a beat. Never missed a beat. I mean, everything to perfection.
In 1941, the same year this film was made, Frankie hit the peak of his career. And then the war started. Frankie spent 4 years in the Pacific. And when he came home after the war, the Lindy Hoppers had disbanded. And the number of club dates he got as a dancer eventually declined. So finally, Frankie went out to find a 9-to-5 engagement. In 1955, he landed a job at the post office.
Do you remember what was going through your mind?
Yes, I remember what was going through my mind. The day I went to work for the post office, I said, I'm not going to be here long. I'll be out here in a few minutes, you know.
He intended to stay no longer than a year. But the dancing never picked up again, and as Frankie rose through the ranks to become a postal manager, 1 year became more than 30, and his career as a professional dancer receded into memory.
You never got depressed or sad or, you know, missed the good old days? Or
No.
When they were gone, they were gone.
Listen, you live a day at a time. I don't forget about what happened before. You know, go on ahead, keep moving.
At parties, and here with his old friend from Whitey's Lindy Hoppers, Norma Miller, Frankie would still find the opportunity to demonstrate the Lindy Hop. But neither of these two veterans was prepared for what Norma discovered as Frankie was approaching his retirement. On her own, she stepped into a club in Harlem where the clientele included lots of young people, and they were enthusiastic about learning a bygone dance called the Lindy Hop.
They would come to me and tell me about Lindy Hop, and then I would ask them. I said, well, if you're so interested in Lindy Hop, how is it you don't know Frank Manning? And they said they had never heard of him. I said, well, the world's greatest Lindy Hopper lives right here in New York City, and you're talking about a dance, you want to know something about it, and you don't know who's the best. And that was how it started. I went and got the best.
You step and behind the back, turn, and the fella turns too.
And so, 50 years and a lifetime of change from the Savoy in Harlem, Frankie Manning, on his retirement from the post office in 1987, wound up teaching and choreographing the Lindy Hop again.
Forward, turn out. There you go, and over.
These are members of the New York Swing Dance Society, who were so enthusiastic about the Lindy that they formed an amateur performance group called the Big Apple Lindy Hoppers.
Those four that we have to get around. Oh, that's fast.
Yeah, well, that's what makes it look more movement there.
Okay.
With the return of Frankie Manning to the scene, it was like studying an original work of art. At this rehearsal, Frankie started them off with what he calls jockeying. That's to get the tempo.
Don't watch me.
This is the swing out, one of the most characteristic steps of the Lindy Hop. here's the slide through. And just to show that he hasn't lost a step at the age of 75, Frankie can still flip partners less than half his age. But one of the best ways to see Frankie work is when he's just out on the dance floor enjoying himself, leading anyone who wants to join him in a jazz dance called the Shim Shan. This is a night spot called the Cat Club in New York City, where you can find Frankie hanging out these days. And all eyes are following Frankie Manning's lead.
What does it mean to you to be involved in dance again?
Oh, it means everything in the world. I mean, as a matter of fact, it means my life. I'll tell you the truth, because if I wasn't dancing, maybe I wouldn't have reached this age.
There was still one more turn waiting in Frankie Manning's revived career. Last year, producers began to put together a show for Broadway called Black and Blue. A review of some of the dance and musical history in which Frankie had played such an important role.
Hips, hips, hips. All right.
Frankie, who had never before worked on Broadway, was asked to choreograph 2 dances.
Walk, walk.
His contribution to the dancing was so good that with the other choreographers of the show, he was nominated for Broadway's equivalent of the Academy Award, a Tony. And when the night came, and the presenter was one of the world's great choreographers, Jerome Robbins, the prize went to the choreography for Black and Blue. And among those winners was the former star of Whitey's Lindy Hoppers, Frankie Manning.
A Tony.
You know, in the last half of the night, you owe it to yourself to do what you want to do. He loved dancing, and I said, listen, this is important.
You said this is the last half of the ninth. Maybe it's just the 7th inning stretch.
Yeah, you can say that again.
Where does your energy come from?
I think my energy comes from seeing these youngsters get out there and dance, you know? Because they're going to be the ones that will carry the dance on. Makes me feel so good. I mean, to be out there dancing to this music and my partners swinging along with me. Oh, there's nothing like it. Dancing.
I am so glad the Lindy has come back. It's the only fast dance I can do. I have been out of style since the twist came in.
Well, there are a lot of people who are very interested in what Frankie's doing now. As we speak tonight, he's in Stockholm, Sweden on an expense-paid trip to teach the dance. So
Not just here.
Not just here. It's not really sweeping the country, but there's enough interest in it to revive it and to preserve it as a little piece of American
How's
history.
your Lindy?
Not very good. I'm so clumsy I have to declare myself a lethal weapon when I go on the
As soon as the
dance.
show's over, we'll try it. Thank you, Bob.
Okay, I love that. As many times as I've seen it. So you get a little background. Frankie had a really exciting life in the 30s into the beginning of the 40s around Lindy Hop and the Savoy Ballroom in Harlem. Tried to revive his career after coming back from the Second World War and ended up working in the post office for 30 years. And this was a whole new chapter in his life when these young people showed up wanting to learn the dance that had been so important to him. And he was a man with a mission, which was to revive the Lindy Hop and get the whole world doing it. And he went around teaching wherever he was invited, all over the US and in many places around the world. And when he taught the Lindy Hop, he taught tricks, he taught steps, but really what he wanted to communicate is here in this video. This is from 1996, and it's from the Northern California Lindy Society. Oh, Seattle, sorry.
I tell you, like at the top of this class, Walter reminded me this morning, like, say for instance, I don't know Nancy Ann, right?
Just play the music softly at first. See, I don't know her, you know, and I walk up to her, and I walk up to her and I ask her, may I have this dance? So she says, yes. Well, the first thing I'm gonna do is take her in my arms. I'm not gonna say, okay, you stand over there and I'll stand over here. You understand? I'm gonna take her in my arms. My name is Frankie Manning. Nancy, very good. Glad to know you. So now I'm getting acquainted. I'm feeling the music. This is what we call a jockey. So I'm getting in time with that music. Ready to go, baby? You know what I mean? So you brace your heart. Do that again. So you cut it out. So what you do a little, you know, what I call, as I said, a jockey, where you just feeling the music and you're rocking, you rock back and forth. And as I said, you're introducing yourself to the young lady, and you know she's ready to dance because she was over there on the side doing one of these things. You know, she was finger popping on the side. And you know, and I was over here and I said, oh yeah, she wants to dance, so you know. So you walk over and you introduce yourself. Now after you introduce yourself, the music is playing. I mean, you don't just start out because the music is playing. I mean, you know, you want to get the feel of music, so you jockey and you rock, you know. And then you talk to her while you, I mean, because this is a dance where you feel your partner. You feel the music. You play it softly, baby. Yeah. So you're getting in the mood with the music. Top bass and band, you know you gotta dance to that. And then you start. I'm getting in the mood, I'm trying to know her.
And then if it's the 90s, I come up and ask him to dance.
Yeah, this is, well, of course, but you know, anytime.
I lead.
But what I just wanted to explain is that, you know, like she was saying, you know, you get the feel of the music, so you jockey first, so you can feel that, you know. Get the feeling of it. And she'll get the feeling of you, you know, the rhythm in your body as you move it, you know. And you're listening to the music and you hear that music. So, okay, we in sync now, you know. And then you start off and do whatever you feel like doing. Do what makes you feel good.
That was the most important message that Frankie had for all of you and all of today's dancers. The important thing is to connect to the music and connect to your partner. Nothing else is more important than that. And then you dance like Frankie. So as you heard in the 2020 thing, Frankie started teaching all around the world. And at the time of 2020, they mentioned he was in Sweden. He was at Harang Dance Camp. And Harang Dance Camp does all sorts of antics and things. They interviewed him on stage, and it became the beginning of a tradition that wherever Frankie went and taught, he would do story time. He'd tell stories of his childhood, his life, his experiences. So this is probably, for those of you, anybody who heard him anywhere has probably heard this story before, but won't mind hearing it again. And it's about how he first got inspired to dance.
Like from the beginning, I couldn't exactly say what my inspiration was. I often think about that. The fact that when I first tried to dance, and I thought I was dancing, my mother looked at me and told me, you'll never be a dancer. And I mean, when she told me, I was so devastated. So I said, well, you know, at the time, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to show her that I'm going to be a dancer. All I was thinking was that she said that you're too stiff, man. You're too stiff to be a dancer. So all I was thinking about, or maybe if I learned how to loosen up, but that wasn't the word. I didn't know the word loosen up. All I say, I learned how to get unstiff. That was my word. I said, I got to learn how to get unstiff, you know. And I just started playing music and listening to the music and trying to get down, you know, like I used to see them do. And I see my mother and her friends, they be dancing, you know, and they be. And I said, man, I gotta get down like they get down, Jim. I want to get down and bend there, you know. So I just took a broom, a chair, and I played my music. I had one of these big trolls. Y'all ever heard of it? Yeah. That's the things you wind up, and then it runs down before the record is finished. So I had my big troll, and I would play this record, you know, and I'd be up there just dancing, you know, like I'd pick up a broom, you know, I'd dance the broom, pick up a chair, and I'd dance to the chair, you know.
That was Herring Dance Camp. So in addition to telling stories about his childhood, Frankie also shared a lot of stories about the times that he came up in and his experiences as a Black man coming from Harlem, traveling around the world. And at this point, most of the young people who were interested in learning the Lindy Hop were white, and he provided an education for them. And I think that was one of the great things that he did. So here's one of the stories that he told. This has to do with a gig that he danced in with Whitey's Lindy Hoppers in Boston. It was in a big hotel ballroom. The band was the Count Basie Band, and the singer was Billie Holiday.
There was a lot of segregation back in those days, as you know. We did a thing up in Boston, Massachusetts, with the Count Basie Band and Billie Holiday, and we were on the bill with them. And Billie Holiday, being one of our favorite singers, you know, after our stint was over, we all came out and sat at this table just to hear Billie sing. And management came out and told us that we couldn't sit at the table, you know. So we had to get up and leave, and we went back to our dressing room, back to our rooms. And later on, Billie came by, Billie Holiday, that is. I'm familiar with her, that's why I can say Billie, if you don't mind. So Billie came by, and she said, hey, what happened to you guys? I saw you out there at first, and then again, I didn't see you. What's the matter? You don't like my singing? You know, kidding around, you know. So we told her, so well, no, you know, guy came over to us and told us we couldn't sit out there. And she said, what? I said, well, that's what the man says, you know. And she went to the management and she said, well, look, we all in the same show. And if they can't come out there and sit while I'm singing, then I'm not gonna sing anymore. And I don't know, they had, you know, I don't know everything that transpired between them, but whatever it was, they finally agreed to say, well, okay, there'll be one table, like they can come and sit at that one table.
And here's another story. At this time, Frankie was with Whitey's Lindy Hoppers dancing at the Cotton Club, also 1937. And he actually used to say that it was when he finally got a gig at the Cotton Club that he realized he had become a professional dancer. And he gave up his day job as a furrier. He was training to be a furrier. So here he is. At this time, it was the Cab Calloway Orchestra, and Bill Bojangles Robinson was running the stage show.
It was a tap dancer on the show called Dynamite Hooker, and he was like the first act on the show, first dance act on the show. And Dynamite Hooker, when he finished dancing, he would rush off the stage, and generally there was a line of chorus girls getting ready to go on stage, and he would rush off stage and he'd be pushing them, just pushing them all over the place, And he always did this when he came off there. He didn't care who was in his way. He was just pushing them, So one evening, I was standing there talking to one of the chorus girls, and Dynamite Hooker came off stage, pushing and shoving, and I happened to be standing there, and he pushed me up against the wall, Well, I'm from the streets of Harlem, and when somebody push you, you fight back. So when Dynamite Hooker pushed me, I bounced off the wall and I grabbed this sucker and I hit him, man, and knocked him down. He said, "Oh, what you do that for?" I said, "Man, don't nobody push me around. You understand?" I said, "Get up, loud and loud." So he said, "I don't want to fight you. I don't want to fight you." I said, "Well, don't you never be pushing me again." But like the chorus girls and the other fellas, they was holding me, they trying to keep me from getting at this guy, and they was kind of feeling kind of bad for me too, because they said, "Well, man, Bill's gonna fire you because he don't like no fighting on this show. Bill Robinson will get on the butt, And then later that night, sure enough, somebody said, "Come to my door," and they said, "Well, hey, Frankie, Bill Robinson want to see you." And I was walking through it, and all the chorus girls and chorus boys, they would say, "Oh man, Bill's in." So the same thing, I knocked on the door, and Bill answered. He said, "Who is it?" So I said, "Frankie Manning." So I walked in. So he says, "Young man, I heard that you was out there fighting." So I said, "Well, Mr. Robinson, it wasn't much of a fight. I hit him and he went down, and that was the end of that." And so he started to bawling me out. He said, "Well, this is Broadway, and this is an all-black show, and we are working in a white neighborhood, and we don't want to, we don't want them to get no bad impression of us, and I don't want no fighting in this show, and if I ever catch you fighting again, I'm gonna fire your butt, So I said, "Well, I tell you what, Mr. Robinson, if him, Dynamite, or anybody else comes off the stage or come anywhere and push me, I'm gonna fight. And I do mean anybody that pushes me, I'm gonna fight back." He said, "Well, you wait till after the show or something like that, He said, "Well, I don't want you fighting in the show no more." I said, "Well, I'll do my best to keep from doing it. If nobody don't bother me, I'm okay, So he says, "Oh, okay, get on back out there, So I turn and walk out, and I get ready to open the door to go out, and he said, "Frankie?" So I said, "Yes." He said, "I'm glad you did that. I've been wanting to do that for years."
Some of you may have recognized the woman sitting next to Frankie on the stage. That's Dawn Hampton. And on the other side is Chaz Young. Chaz was Frankie's son, and he was also a professional dancer. And many people actually have seen them perform a shim sham together. It's quite out of this world. And it kind of brings to mind something that we've seen happen this year during the pandemic, which is that a lot of Lindy Hoppers, because they can't go out dancing with partners, have stayed at home in front of the mirror and worked on their solo jazz, and which is great. Frankie would have been very pleased. Frankie was a jazz dancer, and his Lindy Hop always included a lot of jazz steps. It was a swing out and lots of jazz steps. And it wasn't Lindy Hop if it didn't have jazz steps. So when he went around teaching jazz steps as parts of his routines, he filled in the history of them as best he could, to the extent that he knew. And so here's an example of that. Before we show the video, I just would like to, I haven't yet apologized for the quality of most of the videos we're showing. This was mostly in the 90s, early days of Lindy Hop, and people did not have fancy equipment. We're just so glad that what got captured got captured. So in this particular video, which is the Northern California Swing Society, is Lindy Society, there's a little blip in the film right at a kind of crucial point. So I just kind of want to get you set up so that you'll know what's going on and won't get too confused. Frankie talks about the women who were the chorus girls at the Apollo, and they were making a nice living doing that they were well-to-do. And he talks about their boyfriends, their gentlemen friends, or whatever he calls them in there, who would wait at the back door of the Apollo when they came out and act, very fancy and stuff like that, and escort these women. And Frankie's point was that the guys were unemployed and were living off of the women. And that's what he called pimps in his day. Okay, so a pimp was somebody who lived off of a woman, but it didn't necessarily have anything to do with prostitution. Okay, see if you can follow this one.
Now the idea is a partner is backing up, I do snap, ba-boom, here, Now this is called, what the girl is doing is a fishtail, right? What the guy is doing is a pimp walk. Any of you guys know what a pimp is? Oh, you're laughing like everybody knows what a pimp is. Well, this is a step. It's a little jazz step. All jazz steps are taken from life, as you know. And this is from real life. This is sights that we have seen. In New York, there was a theater called Apollo Theater, and it's famous all over the world, so you might have heard of it, where all the famous jazz musicians, and they used to have shows where they had chorus girls on stage. Gentlemen friends, who didn't work. They were chorus girls and they were working, right? So the fellow figured he didn't have to work, so he was a pimp. And on 126th Street, I used to see this because I used to live on 126th Street. I used to be sitting on my stoop as a kid, and I watched these guys backstage. Now they would be coming to the stage door, and they'd be, man, I got to go down the way and meet my friend, They're just tipping, And that is exactly how they walk. They were actually tipping. So we all got this step together. So we said, well, yeah, that's a good step. We put it in the Lindy Hop, right? And we call it the pimp walk, which is what happened. That's the way they pimp. This is actually the way that they used to walk. You see some guys who actually exaggerated walk. They'd be late on here. They'd be, So now, guys, you gotta get in a frame of mind. And you're gonna start thinking, I'm a pimp. And you can't be rough, you gotta be cool, you understand? When you walk, you gotta be.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta tip, and you're not. Because you're cool, you understand? So you're gonna, it's like you just tip it down and say, yeah. And ladies, as I said, you are doing the fishtail. And now this guy is walking after you, and your thoughts are, not today, baby, You just like, but you don't want to, you all know how to do this. You ladies know how to do this. It's like a come on, but no. Like you said, yeah, but no, I'll tell you when. So you don't want to get too far from it, but you just doing this, you're just backing away from it, and just let him walk up on you and say, oh, come on, baby. And you say, okay, but you say, right, not right now, I'll tell you where, so you're just backing off. So let's see how well, we can get it done.
Jazz steps. Unfortunately, there isn't too much film footage of the work that Whitey's Lindy Hoppers did. But fortunately, there is one routine that Frankie choreographed that's all jazz steps. And he choreographed his own version of a popular dance craze called the Big Apple. And this was also 1937 dance craze. This particular film that we're going to show, it was a scene in the movie Keep Punchin'. And Frankie choreographed a bunch of jazz steps together. And nobody was doing solo because it was a big ensemble doing the steps. Okay, let's see that. Now, Frankie's the one in the black pants. And he's walking to the right side of the stage. That's his voice. Okay, I think we have time for one more movie before we wind down. And
Judy,
yeah.
we just had a question. Was Norma Miller in that clip?
Norma was not in that one.
Okay.
Oh no, she was in that. I'm sorry. Norma Miller was in that, and I should have pointed her out when she came on.
Okay.
Forgot. We'll have to see it again. It's called Keep Punchin', and I'm sure you'll find it on YouTube. Okay, so time for the Apollo story. This is when Frankie was playing the Apollo, and story's kind of self-explanatory. Go ahead, Frankie. Coming soon.
Susan, cue it up.
She's working on it. I'm deeply grateful to this woman, Susan Simon, who has learned how to do the video part of Zoom during the last few days so that I didn't have to do it while I was talking. I'm very grateful. And Susan, okay, here it comes.
Just before the Nicholas brothers. As a matter of fact, I think the Nicholas brothers stole all this stuff from the Nicholas. And I was working with them at the Cotton Club with Cab Calloway and Bill Daniel Robinson and Alpha Waters. And in the show, Cab's band was like on a bandstand here, and they had like a little platform just up in back of the band where the showgirl, they would walk, they just walk parading off their costumes, They didn't do any dancing because the platform was too narrow for that. But what the Berry brothers used to do, they would come out on the stage and they would come up on this platform, jump over the band onto the floor into the splits, and they used to get such a tremendous hair, man, So I used to watch them and I said, wow, that's fantastic. So I was playing, I was playing Apollo Theater with Erskine Hawkins band at one time. Anybody ever heard of the Apollo Theater? So I was working at the Apollo Theater with Erskine Hawkins band, and I got this great idea that I want to get the crowd all aroused before we even hit the stage, So I said, well, when they introduce our act, I'm going to run, because I didn't have a platform there, and I had to come from back to the stage. And it was just like this piano is there, and the piano stool like it is now, but it was kind of catacomb this way, facing out toward the band. So I said, well, if I run from backstage, bounce off that stool, over the piano, and over the band, well, I'm sure the crowd would say, yeah! So man, I didn't tell anybody that I was going to do it. So when they said, why is Lindy Hopper, man? I flew out the stage, man. I hit the stool and I jumped over there. I was on the piano, but I didn't quite make it over the band. I landed among all the music stands and everything. Luckily, I didn't hurt myself or I didn't hit anybody. But all the music on the stand was all over the floor, man. And the band was so shocked because they didn't know. I mean, you can imagine a band up here supposed to be playing, and then something was crashing. And they up there cut, whoa! And everything was coming out the horn. So I did bad. I landed on the floor, and then even the audience was shocked at first. They said, oh! And then afterwards, they started laughing. I was running around the stage picking up music, and the rest of the kids in the group, they didn't know I was going to do that. And they flew out on the stage and they said to me, what the hell was he doing? I'm running out. I said, keep dancing, keep dancing. I'm running out picking up music, putting it back up on the bandstand, man. And the band was laughing. Boy, they didn't play no music for us that day, boy. This was just a laughing show. But when it finished, the manager of the theater, Mr. Schiffman, he come back and he said, wow, that was terrific. You want to do that again next year? I said, hell no.
Hell no, Mr. Schiffman. All right. So you can see Frankie had an exciting life from the time that we saw when the 2020 segment was made. He had 20 more years of teaching and dancing and telling stories and stuff like that. It was really a wonderful time. At one point he was interviewed, this is again in Harangue Dance Camp, by someone who made some reference to the fact about all those years when Lindy Hop was dead. And he did not like that. Did I forget something?
No, never did. It slowed down. but it was never dead. Well, I'd say it's one of the longest living American dances around, because this dance started like in 1927, and you know at that particular time, you know, it just grew from then, and you know, like just like all the other dances, people say, oh, that's just a fad, it's gonna die out. But here it is, 2004, and the dance started in 1927. So, and it's still around, and it's still growing, and people still loving to do it. So, it's a dance that will last forever. I mean, it may, you know, like level off, but it will never die. It would always be here, just like the waltz and the foxtrot and all those other dances. And but this just happened to be an American dance that's going to be here.
It's a now thing.
And it's, I mean, I don't care when now is. It's a now thing, yes.
And it's still a now thing, isn't it? So whenever Frankie gave his talks, his story times, he always ended them the same way. So I'm going to do that today, and that is showing the film, the dance sequence from the film Hellzapoppin'. And I just would like to tell a little anecdote as we go into it. At the beginning of the scene, a few musicians kind of happened to come upon some instruments and pick them up and start jamming together. And then it goes on to be the big dance routine. And a lot of people will show the video and just show the dance routine. Frankie would never show it without the music, because for him, you couldn't separate the dance from the music. And actually, the guys who did this did a beautiful job with the music. So I would just like to tell a little anecdote, because Frankie was there when the filming was going on. The musicians were picked up. He called it a pickup group of musicians, and it included Slim Gaylord and Slam Stewart and a few other people. You'll get to see their names at the end. And they assembled before the director, and the director said, okay, let me see what you can do. So that, you know, they did the routine, picked up instruments one by one, joined each other and started playing. And the director says, that was fantastic. That was so great. Do it just like that. Okay. Just like that. We're going to do it again. We're going to get the cameras going again. So, you know, the musicians picked up the instruments and started playing. And of course, they did something totally different, because they were jazz musicians and they were having a good time. They were improvising. And the director says, oh, that wasn't the same, but it was terrific. Do it just like that again, and so on. Anyhow, so the very first part of it is a little musical ensemble, and then we go into the big dance routine. Afterwards, we'll have a Q&A.
Pops, keep that beat a beating. I feel a rhythmic brainstorm coming on. 1, 2, keep that rhythm heating. One more riff like that and I'll be gone. Oh man, don't stop now, we're jumping. Give everything the Lord now. This thing might turn into something. I ain't mistaken, here comes something now.
See if we can figure out which dancer is Frankie Manning. Norma Miller.
Hey, Pops, keep that beat a beating. I feel a rhythmic brainstorm coming on. 1, 2, keep that rhythm heating. One more riff like that and I'll be gone. Oh man, don't stop now, we're jumping.
I need to catch my breath after that. I just want to mention a small thing about the video we just saw of Helsa Poppin' and also the one of the Big Apple routine from Keep Punching. They were recently upgraded and re-synthesized. The music was re-synchronized with the dancing. And I'm very grateful to Andy Lewis from England who did that work and let me use them. And he's also done some really nice work with high def and stuff like that. But through our process, you can't really see that so well. Any questions?
Okay, so we're going to open up to questions and a gallery view. So if you want to change your view, if you want to put your video back on so we can see you, if you are shy and you want to put your question in chat, you can go ahead and do that, and then I can ask it for you. Or you can raise your hand. Although I will tell you that I can only see so many of you at a certain time on the screen because we have more than one screen full of people. So if I hear your voice, maybe I'll come and find you. But questions. Well, you're thinking, oh yes, Ann Clark.
Hi.
I read Frankie's book a long time ago, but I can't remember how he got in, why these Lindy Hoppers ended up in a Marx Brothers film. Okay, well, it's actually a Norma Miller story. Whitey's Lindy Hoppers was actually several different troupes and with gigs all over the world. It was a big enterprise. And the group, Norma went on the road with, oh gosh, famous woman singer. Her name just flew out of my brain.
Was it Ethel Waters?
Thank you, Ethel Waters, who was one of the biggest black stars of the day. Okay, she was on the road with that company, and they were working in Los Angeles and were dancing at Club Alabama. I don't know if there's anyone here from Los Angeles, the wonderful history there. And the people from the Day at the Races saw them and said, we have to put this in our film. So that's how that happened.
Oh.
Okay. Not a Frankie story, but it's a story.
Thank you. So we have one note that says, Judy was Frankie's queen.
I was thinking about that. Frankie used to say that, of course, and that was very sweet. And he always said that Lindy Hop, you start by bowing to the queen.
That's right. Taking your hat off.
The message was, your partner is the most important person here. You know, that's where your tribute is.
Yes. Other questions? Other questions? Yes, Roger.
Roger.
Well, it's not really a question, but it's a story that Frankie told that I thought of when I was looking at all the Hollywood movies. He said that Fred Astaire once saw them dance. I said to Frankie, I wish I could do that. And Frankie said, what? Fred Astaire wants to dance like me? So that was, I've never forgotten that story.
Great.
Yeah, that's true. And it was actually on the set for Hell's a Poppin'. Fred Astaire came by.
Other questions or comments? Ron?
Oh, you're muted.
Ron, you need to unmute yourself.
Audio on.
Sorry about that. I think Frankie told this story, but it's been so many years ago, I'm not sure. That on the set of Hell's a Poppin', he told Ann Johnson, his partner, that, you know, when she kicks him, when they were practicing, I think she said, oh, he said, or told her to kick as hard as you can. Now just make it look real, not realizing that in Hollywood, there are X number of takes. So there were X number of takes. And I think Frankie's butt was really sore. But the really ironic part is the take that you saw in the film is take one.
Huh. Is that right? I didn't know that.
They took the first take after, I think they were like 17 takes of that or something like that, whatever. And like I said, his butt was really sore after being kicked, you know, so hard by Ann Miller. But take one is the one they took.
It's funny you should mention that, Ron, because I was just thinking about something that, trying to remember when I first connected to Frankie and stuff like that. And I knew him because we were part of the same crowd. And a whole bunch of us went to the Public Theater in New York to see Ernie Smith present a film collection. And this was before you had videos and internet and all of that. You had to go somewhere to see somebody's film being projected to see historic clips. Anyhow, during when Ernie showed Hell's a Poppin', during the point where Ann kicks Frankie in the behind, this guy sitting behind me says, ow. And he did it for years after that. I don't know if any of you heard that. So that was when that's when I found out he had some connection to that film.
So Judy, we're getting some questions in on the chat. So one of the questions is from Angela, wondering what your favorite song was to dance with Frankie. A lot of us know what Frankie's favorite song, which was Shiny Stockings, but what was your favorite song?
Actually, I really loved Corner Pocket. And I don't know why, there's a way that it works for me, turns me on.
Okay.
Good song.
And then we have another question from another Ron. What did you and Frankie do on your first date?
Well, we had dinner together. I actually invited him over to my place for dinner. And tried very hard to indicate to him that I was interested in him, and he didn't get it. He did not get it. So it was a nice evening. Afterwards, I had to get a little more direct with him.
Did you make his sweet potato pie?
No. No, I did once make it, and Frankie's best friend, Scotty's woman, told me it was not right. So I got the recipe from Gourmet Magazine. It had some kind of alcohol in it or something. It was delicious, you know, but not right.
Okay. Other questions? Yes, Barbara.
I know that we're all here because of the dance and because of that sense of connection, you know, that he really understood with the partner, and it's what we're all practicing or wanting to practice. I just want to share that I've been very slowly working my way through the book Caste, and I had just read the chapter about Black entertainers in white culture, and someone sent me the video of Hell's a Poppin'. And it just happened at that time, and I felt uncomfortable with it. And it was just so interesting as we, you know, not in any way, I mean, the dancing is amazing, but I just was uncomfortable with the setup for the whole thing and the
costumes as being a bellboy and a maid and all of that.
And the kind of frantic kind of doing that. And so I just name that as how we're all understanding that, and I love the spirit of it, and I just had that response, you know.
Thank you for bringing that up. I mean, I've seen it so many times that I forget
to
say anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
It was an attempt to integrate that scene into the whole movie in which everybody else was white.
Yeah.
And it also, that scene was cut out of the film when it was shown in the South. So it's not connected to the storyline of the film at all.
Wow.
But thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, it's this interesting context as we.
Barbara, you might be interested in speaking with Ron Fields, who ran a Black movie. It was a Black film series that we Chester and I went with him, viewed with him, and we looked at Black films made by Black filmmakers, and then noted the difference between the Black films and roles made by Black filmmakers and the Black roles made by white filmmakers. And Ron wants to say something, but Ron made that very same point that Judy made, that a lot of these movies were built so that that scene could be cut out. But Ron wants to say something.
Yeah, that's part of a larger subtext. I mean, I've done a number of these things where I talked about the role of Black people in general, you know, back in the 20s and before the 30s and so on and so forth. And as painful as it is, I always bring out what life was like for Black people, you know, back in the day, because it really adds to the subtext of what we're talking about. I did a whole thing about Harlem, etc., because I'm from Harlem. And before I even got started, I made people, you know, think about three things, you know, to pretend three things. Number one, that you're in New York City. Okay, wherever you are now, no, you're in New York City. Number two, that it is 1920, because that's the era I wanted to go back to. And I talked about what it was like to be in the year 1920-21, and so the war's over. There's a pandemic that, you know, you might be able to relate to, and so on and so forth. But number three, I said to people, you are all Black. And I was speaking to an all-white audience, and I talked about what that meant in New York City in 1920. And then I said, did I say you are Black? No, you're not Black. You're colored. You're Negro. And however people felt uncomfortable about that, you know, I felt that's too bad. That's unfortunate, but that's the way it was. And with that backdrop, then I went into the whole thing about, you know, what we're getting into and so on and so forth. But I find that it's very, very difficult, if not misleading, to think about, you know, the Lindy Hop dance, what things were like in the 20s and 30s, et cetera, with a 21st century mindset. That's really misleading. So what I want people to understand, again, however uncomfortable it may make us now, you know, in 2021, is this is the way it was back then. Right. And again, that lends a dimension to really what we're talking about.
Thank you, Ron. And just so that you all know, we actually have Ron's presentation on our YouTube channel, YouTube/Got2Lindy Dance Studios, Got2Lindy Dance Studios. So we have that very presentation that he's talking about. We have a presentation that he and Susan did through the hotspots, the dance hotspots of Harlem. I know, Barbara, you've been to some of those presentations, but you did miss the one that Ron's referencing.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah, so they're all on our not our website, but they're all on our YouTube channel. So do check them out. And yes, a question has just come in. Will today's presentation also be on your YouTube channel? Yes, it will. So Judy is being very generous with us, and it will be on the YouTube channel, so you can check it out there, and you know, and invite your friends who missed it. I know we got a lot of people who were like, "Oh no, I can't come." So it is going to be viewable. And we do these presentations, not this particular one, but we do these type of presentations every third Friday. We've been doing them all year. And the next one that we have will be Ron and Susan. And Susan is more than just a backstage technical wizard that she has become in the last week. She's also a great presenter and DJ and dancer. And Ron Fields, amazing presenter. So they've teamed up for another presentation, and they're going to be taking us through a tour of Harlem in the 20s, through the gay and blues hotspots of Harlem in recognition of June being Gay Pride Month. So come and come to that, and more. Every third Friday, just check it out. If you haven't already subscribed to our e-newsletter, it is at Got2Lindy.com. Just subscribe, and then you'll always know when we have these type of events virtually, and also when we have in-person events, which will be happening at some point. Other questions, comments, memories of Frankie that you want to share? Andrew, hi, it's good to see you.
Thank you. So I learned relearned the word jockeying tonight. And so I first heard jogging, you know, like running, jogging, but then I looked it up on Google, and what I'm seeing is jockeying. So I just wanted to make sure I had the word.
Yes, it is jockeying. Yes.
Thank
and
you.
it's when a jockey is getting ready with his horse before running out. It's that getting ready.
Good. Other comments, thoughts, memories of Frankie that you want to share? I see Margaret is here on board. She probably has a ton of things. Mark, I see your hand coming up.
Yeah, you were talking about the Big Apple earlier, but then I wanted to ask about the Frankie Do. So I remember seeing this fantastic performance from Margaret and some others at Frankie's birthday celebration. But I've never actually seen a video of Frankie doing it.
Mark, do you mean the Frankie?
But I haven't actually seen like Frankie actually doing the full routine. Is this just something that's then been passed along through our community, or is there a reference point that we have for this? Because I've been searching, but I haven't seen that clip.
It's complicated. As I mentioned earlier, you won't see Frankie doing solo dances, okay? I mean, he never did dance alone. So the Frankie do, there's a couple of people here who could probably tell you more about it. But anyhow, it's a traditional dance. There's no ownership, okay? Different people did it, including Frankie. And Frankie taught it, and Sing Lim actually sent me a video of Frankie teaching a class in Singapore. Sing is here. Yes, she just put a heart on her name. And Margaret can tell you also. Margaret, do you want to add anything in terms of what Mark said?
Oh, well, at the Swing Society, you know, when we were at the Cat Club and other places, when I go out to dances in Harlem and around New York, Harry and Ruby did that dance, and that was like their performance routine.
Right. And they were actually a generation younger than Frankie, or a little bit younger than Frankie, and they had inherited it, but they made it their own.
Yeah, it was different than the one, but I wish I had a video of that. You know, I don't know if I do, but I can't find it.
Talking about videos that probably are out there and have a way of showing up, I must say special thanks to Mark Kihara, who was involved in collecting so many of these videos that we saw today. And I think they're gems. And, you know, I mean, I certainly have a personal attachment to Frankie, but I think everybody's got kind of a personal attachment to him. And it's so wonderful to see the things that you kind of remember that he was about. Yeah. And there's no end to it. I could probably, Mark can tell you, there's so many videos that I could probably do this a few more times.
And another good way to hear his stories are in his book. So if you haven't already read his book, Judy has it there, and it's easily had. So.
Terrific.
Any other comments, questions? We are at our magic hour.
There's also the PBS documentary, Never Stop Swinging.
Yes. The documentary Never Stop Swinging, which we showed here in the Hudson Valley too. Okay, I'm just gonna turn the page and see if I can see anybody else raising their hands. No. Hi, Yannicka, nice to see you. Okay, all right, so thank you so much for coming. If you like I said, make sure you subscribe to our email list so you know what's happening, because something's always happening here in the Hudson Valley and in the last year and a half virtually. So, and we will continue to do these virtual events because they're great. They're a great way to reach out across the world. We're so happy that we have people joining us from all over the world. It's really terrific. So thank you all, and have a great night. Sleep tight for those of you who are, or good morning for those of you who have spent the night with us.
That's your gift. Thank you. So many friends here. I've really, it's wonderful that you showed up.
It's so nice to see some faces I haven't seen and Sing. I haven't seen you in such a long time. So nice to see you again.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Take care.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation and the organizing.
Wonderful.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Judy.